Welcome to the Dog Psychology Podcast with Todd and Art.
All right, we are back. We are back after my long vacation in Germany. This is the Dog Psychology Podcast with Todd and Art.
What's up, Art? Good to be back. Nice to see you.
Yeah, good to be back. We probably could have done some episodes while I was in Germany, but the internet was kind of off and on. I actually did some business calls while I was over there, and the internet kept dropping, so probably not a good idea that we did the podcast. But
you see lots of German Shepherds?
Deutsche Schäferhunds. Did not. Actually, I did see some. I've mentioned this woman in the past, Katrin Schultz.
Mm-hmm.
She has 40 dogs, and I actually got to go see her. She was having like an open house for her new training facility, and it was freaking awesome. She has all these cabins on her facility. You can go in and rent these cabins, and you can have your dogs off leash. And
wow!
If you want to book a training session with her, you basically stay there, like a little retreat. So it's pretty cool. It's kind of like a dream that I want to do.
She's executed what I was going to say. That's something a lot of us have thought about. You've talked about that before in like a yoga retreat type of thing where everybody can bring their dogs and have their little spaces to stay. Yeah, Caesar's talked about it, and being able to camp on the property out there.
Yeah, and I talked to her, and so she's gonna come on. I invited her on the podcast, and so we're gonna try to figure out how we're gonna make that work. Just because there's a language barrier, also. So we have Anne who can help translate, and she has some broken English, but I think that it would be really good to get her on here because she's pretty awesome. She's pretty amazing.
Okay. Sounds good, man. So you were talking to me earlier before we got started about some like people posting things. It was on the Facebook page as well. Everybody talking about pack position and trying to assess that and then using that as a determination on what they think they should do. And
so we have a Facebook group for the students of training Caesar's Way. And I've been seeing it a lot lately where people are talking about pack positions. We did an episode on pack positions with Lynn when Lynn was on here, and we were trying to tell him, but I don't think we really scratched the surface. And I don't know, let me know what you think about this, Todd, because like when we're all together, all of us, you, me, Steve, Yoa, I would say about 95% of the time we could always agree on the pack position. There's a and if we disagree, it's a small variant. You know what I mean? It's not like huge. We're not too far off.
I can think of two.
The Husky?
And what do you know the other one?
No.
Camilla German Shepherd.
Thunder. Camilla Cabellos.
Correct.
Thunder,
yeah, because I worked with that dog at its house. And I did not interpret that, as Caesar said, as a front. And same thing with, the Husky. I did a podcast with Ben and Bobby. It's funny, these guys show
Dorian.
Dorian pulled the Lynn and
really?
I guess he's not on the podcast anymore. It's all seemed like it was good, but that Husky that Caesar said was middle. Remember, he called it middle.
Mm-hmm.
He later changed he's called it front to Ben when they were doing puppy assessments off to the side doing something. He called it front. And so I felt good because I've learned that typically my assessments would never be different than Caesar's. I would do different things.
Right.
We don't always agree on, hey, I'm going to approach it this way. I'm comfortable with that.
But that's because our own style,
Correct. I tend to, if I had to say, hey, this is my assessment of the dog and that's his assessment, I'm going to lean in on his because he's coming from more of a place of feel. And I'm coming more from a place of learned, right? I think there's a lot of feel in it now, but it's still learned. And so I feel he's going to pick up on some subtleties that I wouldn't. So I would trust it. But then there's sometimes, and like I said, those two, I just straight up I had a different opinion.
And I think that it's important to highlight also that, and I remember when I first learned this, and honestly, I don't even think Caesar intended this to be a whole thing. Like he was just kind of like, oh, here's this information. And now it's this whole thing. It's kind of created its own, its own legs, and it's kind of, it's kind of confused a lot of people. And early on, it confused me as well, because I used to think of it more as a physical thing, meaning if the dog is behind you, right? But it's not really a physical thing. And it's not even, yes, it is a mental thing, but more importantly, it's more energetically, right? So you can see there's just something, and I wish that was something we could teach, because it's that energy that you can see that the dog puts off, that you get this feel that that dog is a certain pack position.
I think you could sometimes look at it in other animals and see it. It's easier. So there's a sense like lions are really good to use, because the male lions, the way a male lion can just literally scatter like an entire hyena clan, just literally like make the C part and make them calm down. I've saved some videos about that. And what you're seeing is that innate like follow through. It's not just the size, it's the innate follow through of the way that they move, the way that they look. Like it's you know where it's going to end if whatever it is that they want to create doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, that's the part I think on the front side of it. As you get, and I think the other part, to me, this is why I've never really, I don't care. You know, I'll talk about it, but loosely, is that I don't think it really matters that much. What I think the error is that people are using it as a determination to figure out how to train the dog. And I don't think that's where it should come from. So to me, it's the reference point to myself. So if I'm trying to do like front, middle, back, I don't really think it matters because I've clearly seen, for example, and I believe dogs can be different with humans than people. I think you can see, you know, confidence will always be there, but well, you know, I've seen Hercules, for example, he's a straight up front with most every, like in the dog world, he is given respect. He is a confident dog and he doesn't try. It's natural, very submissive with humans. So what side are you measuring? And I've always used this front, middle, back more as a reference to what it is with me. Is the dog a front to me? Right. You know what I'm saying? So if the dog's a front to me, that is going to change what I do. I don't care if the dog is a front out there. That doesn't matter to me. What matters is how the dog, or in reference to the owners, right? If the dog feels that it is, if you wanted to use those words, to the owners, then that matters because you have to engage then the respect and the confidence into the strategy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think too much weight's put into it.
Well, I will say that because you said you don't use it to like how you're going to train the dog, whereas I do in the sense of, but I don't go into a house and say, oh, that dog's a front, middle, back. I don't say those things, but I just, in the back of my mind, I know that because again, I'm looking energetically what the dog is doing, right? And so it is a reference point to start off to like where, you know, the first thing I call out, and I tell people, what do you see? Like call it out right away. What's your first instinct because you have to be able to feel these things right away. And there's always the thing that I when I teach people is the thing is I want them to be not second guess themselves, just do it. And that's one thing that I've learned from Caesar, just assess and evaluate. Boom. You know, so right there in the moment.
It can change because you have to
totally change.
Yeah, that space to change it. Yeah. What were you saying?
No, I was just saying that, you know, that in that moment, I want people to be able to make a decision, be decisive. That's something I learned from Lynn, be decisive.
Correct.
Got to be decisive. And I tell people actually this as well. I was like, I would rather you be decisive and make a wrong decision than you be undecisive and make a right decision later. More importantly, I want people to be decisive. And so I tell people like, I just want to do the wrong thing. I was like, I want you to be decisive. Dude, that's the one thing I want you to do.
Go back to that. I think that you just said a sentence right there that cripples half the people trying. I don't want to
be wrong. Yeah.
Yep. I don't want to do the wrong thing. And it can backfire on both sides. If you want to go to the dogs that are really confident or the fronts, they see you as a pussy and they just put pressure on you. And the dogs in the back see you as hesitant. I was helping somebody with a real nervous dog and that was it. They were so cautious that they came across as, you know, hesitant. And so then that apprehensive energy of not committing to what you're doing can make all dogs look at you like you don't know what you're doing. I lean more into getting people to see the direction that their dog moves, right? Like, so the direction the dog is moving is going to give you some indication of what the dog is going through as opposed to all the guesswork that people do. I don't think there's enough critical thinking either. Like I understand sociology really well. So I understand the way that two energies will move each other around and so forth, not in the dog world, but just in the natural organization of humans or group animals together. And so I'm always going to look at how the other animals respond to each other too, to try to determine that. Right. So I don't like the front. I don't like the front, middle, back thing and essentially everybody's a middle. Right, because technically every pack or litter has one front, one back, and then
Let's talk about that, by the way, because I think that's where people get confused also. Because in my opinion, that yes, everyone's going to have a front, a middle, and a back, but that doesn't mean that the front of that pack is going to be a front in the world.
Nope.
And people will assume, well, that was the front of that pack, but when you bring them into the real world, that dog's actually a middle.
It's all relative to what they're around. And that's why the most important thing is to see the way that it's in relation to what's around, not this objective front, middle, back aspect, because people get too rigid in what they're doing anyways, right? So you have to have the ability to be flexible with changing what you're doing based on what you're seeing in the moment. If you get convinced you have a front or a middle or a back, and then you get confused, you'll be like, well, but wait a second, then that you miss the moment.
Right.
As opposed to staying in the moment and saying, okay, and using words more like, I think, confident or sensitive, moving forward, moving away. And if the dog is always moving away from everything, is it a back, or is it somehow stuck in a pattern of like flight and fear? That doesn't mean it's a back. It just means that it's got some experiences that fucked with its head. It's obviously sensitive. It wants space, but that doesn't mean it has to be a back of the pack. I think fears, a lot of the fears we come across are not this natural inclination of fear. It's our human environment created flight, and then the human encouraged the pattern of flight. Don't you come across dogs that they move away from things, but you're like, that dog doesn't seem afraid. That dog's just used to moving backwards when something happens. And to me, I can almost see that it's the habit behind it, not the true essence of, oh, fuck. And that's what I mean. So people just need to stay in the moment with what direction the dog is going, the intensity with what it's doing, and then the consistency behind what it's doing there. And you can kind of gauge more of what that dog's personality is. It doesn't need a label. We live in an environment we shouldn't label.
Well, when you said that sentence right now about how of a dog is flighty in the situation, and when you said that sentence, I actually disagreed with you. But as I started to kind of sit with it, and not that I totally agree with you, but I think that all dogs can have a flight tendency, right? It doesn't define them as a back of the pack.
No.
And so that is where I started to like, oh, okay, I see what he's saying there. I want to clarify that, because I think there can be some confusion in that, because yes, there's a pattern that the dog is flighting for a certain thing, right? Mm-hmm. Because you can get, those air compressed things, those pet convincer or whatever, those, right? And so you can have a front that is sensitive to that sound to make it move back, right? So you're using a tool.
Or you introduce it at a time and in a way that you make them sensitive.
Right. We kind of layer it on with certain things, yes. And so,
well, let's go back to this. So let's break down even further. Why would it be completely normal for even a super strong, we'll use the term front, to flight? Well, in the predator world, fighting is expensive. It's like physically expensive, right? You can get hurt, and then you can't eat, and then you can't do things. So the inclination to get away is the safest, unless you have young, sometimes food, for territory. So the fighting is natural. So is flighting. It's that in the human world, we take natural and get it stuck, right? So we don't give the dogs the options to move in and out of fight, flight, avoidance. We all do. I mean, the humans are the same. We're naturally going to move in and out of fight, flight, avoidance. We're going to live in acceptance most of the time. Otherwise, the body and the mind can't take it. So we're designed for that. But hold on just a second. But the problem is, in the human world, we're really good at reinforcing these things. And then we get stupid shit like people come along and are like, you can't reinforce emotion. And then everybody gets caught up in this. And then the very next sentence will say, but you can reinforce all the aspects of the way it's expressed. So that's called semantics. So yes, you can reinforce emotion. And so we get these mixed messages, right? So people get these dogs that flight, and then the new fear-free method says, remove that dog and remove whatever's making them afraid and talk to them. Like simple shit, dude. I did a post to remind people how sensitive dogs are at getting caught up in the way we do it. And everybody can think of a dog that's gotten excited when you say, you want a treat? You want a treat? Want to go for a walk? Right? So you bring out a leash and the dog gets excited, or you bring out food and then you start to add your voice, right? It gets layered. Yeah. Well, how about when a dog is afraid? How many people go, same thing. Hey, Junior. It's the same thing, right? So people don't think in all aspects of behavior. They somehow only concentrate on the front or the back behaviors. They don't see that they're all of it. all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And then you choose what you want your dog to stay in. And I find people give a lot of attention to excitement and fear, not a lot of attention to calm surrender. And that's why we're having this conversation.
Yeah. And I think also what you said about how some people will take, for example, like this pack position, they take this one thing, or they take one thing that Caesar said or what we said or things that we may have mentioned even on this podcast, and they take one clip of it and they form an opinion, good or bad, But also I see it like everybody does it, by the way, where they take like, I mean, even in the dog training world, they talk about, they take one clip of a video and lose the whole context of what's going on. And so that one little part may look bad, but without, or what somebody said may look bad, but there's a whole context behind it, and people misinterpret what was being said. I see it all the time. I see it all over the media on both sides, or all sides, I should say.
Well,
I see it all the time, and being able to recognize those things,
I did that post. If you look on Instagram, and this is exactly to your point where you're talking about, I think people don't realize how much they see facts in the way it felt to them, not in the situation, right? So as soon as they establish an emotional feeling about what they're watching, they don't have the ability to critically break down anything else other than the way it made them feel, right? So they stop critically thinking. So I did this video with the dog scuba diving. And the reason I released it is because when I watched this video, I got this feeling of like, it was such a unique energy the dog was projecting. Like it would be to me I don't know, bewilderment, fascination. I don't know how you would say it. It screamed to me like this dog was like in a mode of this is something else. And if you look at it, here we go.
I don't know. It makes me feel weird. Very unnatural.
Exactly. Okay. You're right. It's a scuba diving dog. But at the same time, people belong on land too. The point is, I put in the thing, I go, would you do this with your dog? Okay. And some people would be like, hell no. Some people would be like, absolutely. So I got mixed signals. Tammy comes in and says, it's unnatural because of the dog's desire to smell the world and all these things. And then you got these people that got real kind of venomous and and you could tell it was the way that they felt. So I got into a dialogue with a lady and I said, hey, I can't tell if this dog is loving this, but I can tell you this dog's not hating this. And she's like, you can't tell. Blah. Or she goes, how can you tell? I go, because you can't force that. I go, that dog can't be forced into that position. That dog has to be taught, taken through the steps. You can't force that dog. If he's loving it or not, that is completely open for interpretation. But
yeah.
In my mind, I think, have you ever tried giving a 75-pound dog a bath that doesn't want one?
Probably.
Right? Now, they'll put scuba gear on a fucking 75-pound dog and give it a bath and tell me if it's going to look like that. So to me, my point is that if you look at that and you say, okay, what's the dog not doing? That dog is still. Nobody's forcing that dog to be still. You can't force a dog to be still. And now the situation is odd. Is the dog in avoidance? No, he's kind of checking it out. So I looked at it as this thing. I didn't even put any weight into it as it having a negative connotation. I didn't get that side of it. But once I got all the feedback from people, I was really quite surprised. And it made me really kind of go, man, a lot of people, once they interpret something that makes them feel weird, it's not okay for anybody. Like it's if this is how it makes me feel, fuck everybody. And that's kind of where we're at. We always bring things back to society. It's kind of like that's how things are interpreted in the dog training world and politics and everything. So you get this side that totally cancels us out because of the way that we want to work with dogs. And then you can see all these trainers online that want to cancel out the people throwing food at them. And there's not this critical ability to say, okay, I might not agree with that, but let me step further back. Let's take a look at this thing and see what's there and what's not. It's not about me agreeing with it. It's about me having an understanding so I can debate about it. I'm not looking to be right or wrong. But just in this particular case, I'm like, they got to that point to be able to do that. And to me, that means something. So I'm able to pull my emotional self out of it far enough, I believe anyways, to do that. And I think that would be helpful at least in the dog world.
Yeah. I mean, I got a little weird feeling about it. That's kind of weird, emotions.
What way? Have you ever scuba dove?
No, but I don't know.
I got certified when I was a kid. So I've been in the water, and I'm a water sign, like I'm a water human. And so being in the water is a natural part of, actually, I feel it almost heal me.
Actually,
Like, right?
happy belated birthday, by the way.
Oh, thanks, brother. 51, man. Do you see the post I did with alcohol?
Yes.
I've always wondered that, man. If like your dog's like,
I'm sure.
New
I'm
dogs
sure.
anyways.
Yeah.
So
why wouldn't they?
That's what's interesting about the assessment is people have a hard time. Like Caesar uses that feeling thing very positively, in a sense that he can use it to tell how the dogs feel about it.
All right. So should we read the post and then show the videos, or how do you want to do this?
Yeah, that's fine. I haven't seen the videos. You have, so it'll be good for me to see them.
Yeah, it's going to be good that you haven't seen them because I want you to tell me what you think. All right. Okay. All right, Pac, question for the group. I'm generally really solid. And by the way, this is a student also that came to TCW, and James. And he was very, if you remember, Todd, he was very, how would you say, like he
indecisive
was but like what pack position he was. Like he wanted to be a certain pack position, right?
What did he want to be?
A front.
Yes.
And we all want to be a front, don't get me wrong. But I'm never going to be a front. Maybe in the dogs I will be.
Do you remember what Colleen used to call herself?
Happy-go-lucky. No, I don't know.
The front of the middles.
Oh,
she was the front of the middle.
That's right. Yeah, she did say that. Okay. Question for the group. I'm generally really solid at identifying the pack of the dog. It's one of the things I wanted to get really solid at. Okay, we talked about that earlier. Diagnosing. So I asked Caesar about it at TCW, and he said that what he looks for is that they're calm, confident, they're beautiful in the way they hold themselves, and they move like supermodels. They don't approach other dogs. They don't play, but they do let other dogs come to them, and they tend to mark and pee on a new space. Okay. I guess talking about a male.
So go back and read that again. That's actually him articulating that is really good. That's a good articulation of elements that you could see.
Yeah. So he said they're calm, they're confident, they're beautiful in the way they hold themselves, and they move like supermodels. They don't approach other dogs, they don't play, but they do let other dogs come to them, and they tend to mark and pee on new space. Okay. Now, this is a small description of what a front could look like, but there's many other descriptions, and these dogs that they're describing can also be other descriptions.
Let's take something out. If we took a word out and switched it and said, and let's not describe that as a front, but as a very confident dog, right? So that's another way you could do it, is that so you gauge, so that you don't just see things in like it's this, or this, that you can see, okay, that so as you get into very confident elements, you're going to see those things you just said at a heightened state. So as you see things as that goes down, you can also deduce, and this is what I was saying earlier, that I think people, and I think I did a lot of this. I think I did a lot of critical thinking, not just natural understanding of things, because that's kind of my brain style. And so then you could say, if you're not seeing those things, or you're seeing those things softer, then you must be pulled back from extreme confidence. Right. And then if you understand what it looks like when the dogs are more in the back, you can start to really see how this thing moves. So when you look at a dog, maybe you cue in on the way that they're moving so that you understand calmness. Maybe you catch the play. Maybe you catch the marking, or you catch the aloofness. Aloofness is easy for people to miss because they don't understand that that's an element of strength and dominance.
All right, I'm going to keep reading. All right. Since these rules have been absolute gold and made it much easier to identify front energy dogs when identifying behavioral root causes, and I absolutely trust my instincts with client dogs. The one dog I can't figure out is my own lab, 2.5-year-old, intact male, working line, and I've always described as the top of the middle. All right. when I picked him as a puppy, I picked him because he was the most independent and most adventurous, and he has been that way ever since. He was in the breeder's pond at 5 weeks old, the first one in. He is certainly the most. That's a good point, by the way, because the first one in, right? The first one to get fed, first one to do the things.
Yep.
And I've never yet found a dog that was safe to put around, that wasn't more intimidated by him than he was of them. He weighs 30 kilograms. They're not from the U.S. And a couple of months ago, he backed Front Energy Anatolian Shepherd female off a fence line. Very much what felt like a case of energy, body language, and oversize and power. I don't normally let him meet dogs on a fence because he didn't respond well. I'm not going to read all that. One is really calm. I just want to get to the good points. Anyways, so that's kind of the meat of it. So he says, here's a challenge on Caesar's requirements. Okay. Yes, he's very calm and confident. Yes, he's a supermodel. Yes, as a puppy, he wanted to throw his full weight into every dog he saw. And it's hard to tell with my clients because most of them have issues with aggression, but he would absolutely go in on given half a chance. I don't know what that means. But with dogs, he knows he's highly inclined to mind his own business too. He always checks every dog and greets them. So that's okay. All right. So let me play the video. Okay, Todd, since you haven't seen.
I have a video of a bunch of puppies jumping in the water. You can see the order of confidence pretty easy.
Okay, let me know if you can see this.
Hold on, but just go through it. Let me see what I can see.
What do you think?
No. Not a front.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. It's funny because
just look at the way he moves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's almost like he almost has like puppy movements still.
Yeah.
And that's part of the calm part. They're gonna move smoother.
The first thing I said was like, that's a middle.
Yeah, he's a playful
middle.
dog. Yep, he's a playful dog. He's that other dog, whatever that little tolling retriever, whatever that little thing was, had him a little unsure. You know, you can see there's a little moment. He's like, "What the fuck, dude?"
Mm-hmm.
And never once really held a position of any. Like, it was very. I don't know. No, he's a great. He's a good dog.
Yeah,
I see a good playful dog. He'd be a good pack dog. He'd create a little bit more excitement than you might want at times. No.
Yeah, it was funny because like Jojo immediately just responded, excited middle. And it kept it short to the point, exactly what it was. And there was some other comments on here that they're also pretty good. And Jojo says, as usual.
Was anybody really off?
I didn't read all the comments. I just kind of like.
Okay.
I honestly, I just kind of skimmed it through real quick. But I did see Jojo say, as usual, James has analyzed the shit out of this. I'd love to see some good video of this dog in different scenarios like you talk about. Yeah, which is true because we're kind of just seeing that one scenario. But I would just see a middle, not to overanalyze things. It's just, the dog is a middle, and it could be a little more pushy. And I think also the people may see pushiness as more upfront, more confident. The dog is actually a confident dog.
I think he needs to also connect it to him. I think he needs to reference the dog's energy to his energy and where they.
What do you mean by that? That's a good one, but that's a really good important point.
What I mean
I know
is,
what you mean.
Okay, so like, how do you establish yourself? Whatever terms you want to use. Are you a front, middle, or back? So, and this is what I was saying earlier. So let's say that you consider yourself a middle, and you get a dog that starts really putting it to you, right? Mm-hmm. Now, does that mean it's a front? Well, it means that it maybe senses itself more confident than you. And so then the trainer comes in who's in front of the dog and the dog immediately just relaxes with the trainer. And no matter what technical advice you give these people, there's the struggle because it's not coming through the right, you know what I mean? The right energetic channel. It's always coming through that. Well, tell me what to do. Well, your dog doesn't see you as an energy that they need to respect yet. So I think it's more important to reference how a dog reacts to you than anything else. And you need to know how they behave in and around your dogs. If you want to give it a name because it helps you, great. But giving it a name is not going to do anything for your situation, right? You still have to understand what what it means when you have a dog that's moving forward on another dog all the time. I don't care how you label it. How do you
Yeah.
deal with it
Yeah.
is more important to me.
And I think also because what he also described was that this dog was a front of that pack, right? It doesn't mean that he is a front dog. It just means that and I think that's where the people get confused, because Caesar has said every dog has a front, middle, back, but it's the front of that particular litter, right? The most confident one, the one that gets fed first, the one that does all the things first, first in the pond. But it doesn't mean in the grand scheme of things in the world environment, it's going to be a front, right?
I had an appointment yesterday. I walk in, this dude looks like every extra that's ever been like in an Equalizer movie.
Oh my,
You know what I mean?
amazing.
You know what I'm talking about?
Not everyone's seen the Equalizer, but I have. It's freaking
You know what I
amazing.
mean? So it's like every John Wick extra that's ever happened, like this dude looked the part. I walk in and the dogs were really like throwing themselves at you when you'd come in. So they were really physical. They weren't bad. They were just really physical. And I look at this dude because I love doing this sometimes, because I could tell this guy, he had a look in his eye. I'm like, dude, there's something about this guy I'm looking at. This dude is in a different place. And I go, it's no different. I go, what are you going to do if I push you right now? And I love to do this shit just to see the look in their face. And you can see his eyes. And I'm like, oh yeah. And later on, come to find out, this guy is like not just elite in the military world, but like the very tip of the very elite of the very elite.
The 1%, the
like
half a percent.
Oh my God, dude. We're talking about the ones that would make guys like even the SEALs go. Right. And it was funny because when I walked in, I was like, dude, you could feel it. You could feel it. That dude was so front, but super calm. And these dogs were just totally railroading him. So it's not, you can't always interpret it through those type of things. Right. Mm-hmm. So this dude was as front as could be. So he gives permission to everything that happens. Even if it looks like, no, that's not, these dogs are just completely mauling this guy. Right. But we're talking different level of front. So,
yeah.
And I was interested. I worked with him. He really, like you said earlier, James really wanted to grow in this. And so there was a dog that we had when he was there that was really, really scared, but would act really, really aggressive. And I'm like, let's go. And he had to do an exercise in front of the students, and it didn't go as well as he wanted to. So I took him back up there at lunch to deal with it. And the dog peed on him. And I'm like, and then I would show him, and he was tense about it. So that there's uncertainty.
Like peed on him nervously, or peed on him like marked him?
No, peed on him nervously. It was, okay. You could see that it was the uncertainty.
Okay.
So to me, that would be, and I've helped him with a couple other things, is make a decision. Don't question it, but kind of assess little things along the way, right? May have little experiments. I'm really good at guessing because I don't punish myself for being wrong in any way. I'm really, I'm very easy on myself. I've lived
learning opportunity.
Well, I've lived with it, being flighty and ADHD kind of my whole life. So, I'll lose things, forget things, miss appointments, all kinds of shit. And I'm very forgiving to myself. So I've allowed myself the leeway to be like that. So when I'm working, I'll be like, well, let's check it out and guess and see. And you said something at the very beginning when we started where people go, I don't feel like I can be wrong. And I'm like, who gives a shit? That's right. You just learned that didn't work. It's not even that in this way it's wrong. It's just I tried this. And I think the thing for people to know is you can't be wrong if you didn't have a hypothesis or a guess or a plan in the first place. So you have to come into this and go, I'm guessing that this dog is this or this is this based on what I'm seeing. Let's see. Now I'm going to guess it's this and this based on what I'm seeing. And you can kind of piece it apart, but I'd be more concerned from his standpoint, could he manipulate the behaviors of a dog he sees as a front more than being able to assess if it's a front? Mm-hmm. Excuse me.
Also, I lost my train of thought. It was a really good thought too. God, I hate when that happens. Talking about forgetting things. Here we go. So also another point that I think maybe the confusion has happened is that I've heard Caesar say, or I've heard other people say, maybe not Caesar, but other people say when they're describing a front, they will say something like a police dog, right? A very confident police dog. But there's a lot of police dogs that are actually not fronts; they're actually backs. You know, because they use that sensitivity and that forwardness to for certain things. Obviously, there's a confidence level that they also have to have, but some of the police dogs can actually be backs as well. You know what I mean? Would you agree with that?
Well, as you said it, and my immediately went, I'm trying to figure out where is he going with this.
Well, this is the thing. Like,
so are you talking about like a full like patrol dog or
No.
detection dog?
Sometimes even like a protection dog sometimes can be.
No, I mean like detection. I know. I mean protection, yeah, but not like a working protection dog.
Yeah.
I think your nervous dog at home can protect you really good because I think that there's elements there that make them go forward and be protective. Now, in a situation like a police dog, no, because there's always going to be that case that they can be overwhelmed. They'll turn tail. You know, there's always going to be somebody that's strong enough that will take it to them hard enough that they won't commit, in my opinion.
Yeah. But that's when I talked about how sometimes you can get even a front dog to have a sensitivity. If someone were to break into a house and know a certain sensitivity of a dog, they can use that to their advantage.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also the other thing I want to talk about, you talked about that 1%er, that guy you walked into, like you can just feel it, right? And so that can intimidate a lot of people, but also, he's very confident in the skills that he has, right? It doesn't make him a dangerous person. It makes him, he has a skill set that is learned a long career of time, that movie Taken or whatever it's called. But he has a certain skill set that doesn't make him a dangerous person. I also, feel that a lot of times people assume like certain dogs or certain people are dangerous, right? Yes, there are dangerous people, but he has a skill set. Doesn't mean he's going to use it on people. He will only use it if he needs to, right? To protect the family, protect whatever it is that he's working for or whatever it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to come in that dude's house. Invited. Nope.
Do you know who Tim Kennedy is? You know who that is?
Yeah.
The MMA fighter, and he was following. I saw a post he did the other day. He was like, if you happen to get past my property, just know that I will kill you if you come into my house. You're not leaving alive.
Yeah, and he's not kidding. That's not how dude. That guy's. No. I mean, they've done it before. Why would it be? His family's behind him. He's done it without his family behind him. He'd definitely do it to you for that reason.
Yeah,
1,000%. Yeah. Take it to a different level. So you should see. I wonder if I can do this, if it'd be worth it. So I have this really big lizard that lives under our refrigerator because this time of year, the flies out here are terrible. So just opening the door and coming in, you might get 3 or 4 flies come in here, and then we'll kill them, right? So I can't stand the flies. They like it's like dogs with squirrels.
Me neither.
I can't stand them. So we have this electronic tennis racket fly swatter, so it zaps them. Or I'll hit them with my hat. And then since so many flies have fallen down in front of the refrigerator, this lizard has gotten fucking huge because he eats the flies off the ground. So like right now, if I kill a fly, I can guarantee I can put the computer on the ground and videotape it. And this guy's going to go back in and eat the fly. I've kind of named him Lizzo because he's so big. It's so fun. Let me see if I can do it.
By the way, when I was in Germany, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law took their dog with us to the vacation home they were in. And we had never met the dog before. And so he was a little sensitive dog, kind of happy-go-lucky, but a little sensitive. And so the horse flies are terrible out there. I hate horse flies. They freaking bite and stuff. So I'm like you. I use my hat. And so I'm like walking the dog. We're hiking with the dog. All of a sudden, this horse fly just kept bugging me, right? I'm getting my hat, I'm swatting my leg, and I'm going to town. Meanwhile, the dog is like losing his and Anne's like, "Give me the dog." I'm like, "Get the stupid fly off of me," And then I stop, and Anne goes, "Give me the dog," and like the dog's now scared of me because I'm trying to swat my leg, and my wife's like, "What did you do to him?" I'm like, "I didn't do anything. I just swatted my leg,"
So from now until forever, anytime somebody takes a hat off, that dog's going to be fucking scared. Well done, dude.
Yeah. Well, we recovered. I kind of, come on, let's go, get them out. By the way, that's important too. Like know how to recover when these things happen.
Have an eraser for that. That's awesome. So anytime I start whacking the flies with my hat, Blue and Hercules will be like, ding, 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 ding. I'm out of here, man.
You know, bug assault. Have you seen those little guns that shoot salt?
I have seen those. I like this fly swatter thing I have. I have it on video. I have this lizard on slow-mo video. He needs to have his own webpage, dude. It's fucking awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Hold on just a second. Did you have any other videos there to?
Yeah, there was one that someone sent me, and let me find it here. All right, let me go and send these to the computer. Hopefully these will play.
I finally got Instagram moving again. I'm just about at 150. Dude, that was brutal. Once you get into their little jail, you don't come out.
Here I am at 13,000, whatever. You guys are worried about 100,000. You guys are ridiculous.
Well, what's interesting is I do actually think that I can get another 100,000 followers. It's like, I feel like I understand how it works. There's definitely a positioning you can feel as you go in, like get in there. I can tell when even a good post isn't going to do well. And then you start to get to where they open you up and everything starts to work. You can post about anything you want and it'll work.
All right, here they come. All right, let me go share the screen here. Hopefully we won't have any technical difficulties. Okay, nice. So
what's the question?
The question is, so this dog right here was not a TCW, Tank was. And remember, Caesar goes, how would she was trying to describe this dog, and I think she labels it front, and I was like, that dog is, from what I saw, the one video that I saw, he was like in the backyard, just kind of like patrolling and barking and going back and forth, and every like sound, he was kind of sensitive to the sound. I was like, he's a little sensitive to these things, right? So she was like, how can a sensitive, not overly sensitive, obviously, you can kind of tell he's not like shut down, but he's, sensitive to certain things, the sound and stuff like that. Can a sensitive dog correct a middle dog or slow a dog down? My answer is, of course. Like, just because you can be a back of the pack doesn't mean you don't have a say in how things are run. And
are you saying she says that this brown dog's a back of the pack?
No, I said that when the one video that I saw. I'm actually changing my assessment here, by the way, after watching the videos. Yeah. But we got an excited middle, a middle.
Well, a question too, Art. So in the absence of a solid front, something can fill that position, and then they'll act the part, right? So
for what deems necessary for the moment.
Okay, so right now, if the human would have gone in, and I'm not saying that these two puppies were playing too excited. I actually think this is a case where, you can either give this brown dog an activity do so it doesn't do this. Like, here, you're going to lay on this bed. You and I are going to throw a ball, but you're not to enter. Your job is not to do anything with these two puppies playing, right? So that would give direction and remove what looks like the appearance of a dog going in for correction. It did. I mean, it did it well too. It was going in saying, I don't like, it's too excited. Stop.
Slow down.
Stop. I mean, that was really well done. It wasn't overdone, but it doesn't mean it's a front. In my opinion, it means that it's taking that position at that moment to, or you can just say it just didn't like that energy and it wanted to slow it down. You can see that the energy is making that dog a little bit anxious. I mean, you can see it. So that's what I'm saying is a lot of people's interpretations are always going to change because the energy of the dogs around them is going to change. And if you, the human, do your best to take the position of what we would consider the front, if you want to use that, then all the dogs, if you do it right, are going to move more into a position that's not that. Even if they are, even if you have a dog that is a front and you can be fronter, then you're going to see a confident middle. It's the dogs don't care about the labels. That's why I don't think the humans need to.
Right.
Lynn had a good point in it, and I think what's the point?
Right. Yeah. So, and by the way, as I started watching this video just now with you, because I had watched a video with her, or I saw on Instagram, and she didn't know I'd watched it. I happened to watch one video, and it was him kind of like how he was patrolling the backyard. And I was like, oh, he's a back, right? Because of that sensitivity. But now as I start watching more things of him, I changed my assessment right on the spot. So that's what we talk about. Like, I was wrong in that moment. It happens.
Yeah, I think that's important. Behavior is very subjective. I think there's aspects of behavior that are mechanical, meaning like there's, the way you end a situation, the way associations happen and so forth. But at the end of the day, since there's so much emotional state that comes into play and things outside of just the mechanics of behavior, the animal mind and all of this, it's subjective. I mean, who's doing the interpretation? Too much emphasis is put on it. We need to tell Caesar to shut the fuck up.
But this is the thing. I don't think Caesar intended this to be like, honestly, like, I don't think he intended to be a whole thing. And it's like, it's grown. It's like its own meme in a way. It's kind of just grown this whole thing.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think Caesar ever really intended it to be what it's made out to be.
Oh, well.
All right. Well, I have one more to that.
Okay.
And it's the same dogs. Oh, wait. Is this the same one? That's the same one, right?
It looks like it. The dog on the top right there is the same one.
Yeah, that's the same one. Hang on. I just reshared the same one. Yeah. I'm a rookie.
Wait, you mean the same video you just showed?
Yeah, it's the same one.
Oh, okay.
It's this one.
No, that's the one you just showed.
What the heck, man?
The other one you just brought up was not the one you just showed. That's one I hadn't seen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I can see it. The dog on the left looks like a stuffed dog.
It's the same video.
Is it? It
Yeah.
doesn't look like it. It's not the same. It's not the same first frame.
It's good to watch it again.
All right, we'll play because I don't. It does. It looks like a different video from where I'm sitting.
All right, so we just watched the same video, but it's okay because it's good to watch it again. But one thing to note is that, and I think it's also important to note that dogs humping is not always the dominant thing. This dog is a good example of one dog trying to slow another dog down when it's too excited.
Well, earlier I said the play of those two dogs is making that dog a tiny bit anxious, and humping is a way that dogs will displace anxiety. So if a dog gets anxious around other dogs playing, that humping can come out more as a displacement than a controlling mechanism. Now it did manage to have that, but there's different elements to it. So you have a frame on that's got 4 dogs in it and a jacuzzi in the background on the right, which is different than the one you said you keep replaying.
Yeah, so this one is 616. Okay, we haven't seen this one yet. 616. Of course, they don't have all the videos. Let's see. We haven't seen this one. Can you see my cursor moving?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So the 2 dogs she owns is this dog right here and this dog. Really good dogs. All the dogs are pretty good.
Yeah, that's a decent crew. That's an easy crew. Like I said, if you just took a little proactive control of that red dog, he would happily just go over and do something else.
Yeah.
My opinion.
Yeah. She has a pretty good package, but she puts in a lot of work with her dog. Like, she's always walking them. She lives out in Arizona, so she's out early in the morning making sure the dogs walk.
I wonder if there's anything else that helps Cush be a good dog. Could there be another element that makes us?
I actually asked her, I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, no, she actually told me, like, I think it was a character on something. I don't know, but I don't really know.
The other one's named Hindu.
All right. Well, if we didn't confuse people more with this episode, then good job.
Thanks,
But I think the important thing, the important lesson of all this is that it's a tool, but it's not the tool. It's just something that we can use, that we can talk about, but it's not something that I think people should focus on, even though I do use it, but I don't use it in the sense of like I said, front, middle, back. I just see energy. Oh, this dog is a little sensitive. This dog is more happy-go-lucky. This is a very confident dog. That's how I look at things.
I think it's a reference, but it's a personal reference to you, right? I think it needs to come out in like, if you see it in a certain way and you're able to take that reference and that assessment and then use it effectively to help those dogs, don't question it. But if you find that you think you have this assessment down and then you start to work with the dogs and you're not doing well, then you need to go back and practice assessments. It's not the word you're using, but it's the ability to see what's really going on with that particular dog.
By the way, when you say reference to you, that's, again, the second time you said that, and I think it's really important because I've gone into houses and I'm like, I really don't want to work with this dog.
Mm-hmm.
I've told myself that this is not a dog I want to work with. And then I'll just sit down and have a conversation with them. And I was like, let me introduce you to Lynn. I think Lynn could help you out with this dog. I've done that several times.
The moment that you have even the inkling of a desire not to, we shouldn't, especially if it's coming from the decision of a dog being on the serious side. That's just, that's not smart. So it's smart to commit to that, right? Like, either way, I'm with you. That part of my career is not, talk to Steve. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Is not what I'm get excited about like I used to.
I mean, even like the high anxiety cases. Oh man, those, like, I dread those because like the best thing is to remove that from the environment, but then you got to bring that into your home, and that could be a whole other thing.
Well, it's interesting, dude. Like this dog I have right now, I've been looking at trying to figure out how to do a post on this. There's different elements. There was just an article I read yesterday. It's like, they were saying if a dog lives with an anxious person, it's miserable for the dog. I'm like, no shit. Welcome scientists. And, I've been trying to frame something called mirror neurons, where social animals will literally mirror the actions of those around them. Mm-hmm. And then they start to feel it. It's like if you watch somebody throw up, it makes you nauseous sometimes. It's because you're actually literally feeling what they're going through. And I think that's the thing with anxious people, that you almost can't train a dog. It's almost a waste of your time if you're not spending the majority of that effort on yourself. So I have this dog here. I had its brother before who was a high anxiety dog. So I think we have some breeding stuff. This guy's not really anxious. He's more just excited. But at home, he had bad submissive peeing, really bad eating blankets and stuff in his crate. And he would suckle a lot, right? He'd suckle a lot. So here, and I haven't consciously worked on these things, the submissive peeing, but this is more because I understand how to handle them and the right pressures have gone, but no suckling of a blanket and no chewing of a blanket. We have blankets all in his crates. And I haven't done anything for it. And that to me is like the environmental impact of anxiety versus the absence of anxiety in an environment. And how do you help somebody train that? I haven't done anything. I haven't done it. I've done the walking and all that stuff, but I haven't like consciously done anything on blanket chewing or suckling.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
Yeah. That's why I talk about like, it's you indirectly, you don't go to the behavior. You actually work everything that's around it that's causing that behavior. Actually, with our dog Pickles, she was a puppy and she was really mouthy. And I told my wife, don't correct that. Like, we agreed we're not going to address the mouthiness. Just, it'll go away by when we start giving her the things. And it just went away. Like, we didn't actually address it. We indirectly addressed it by the things that we did by, structure and going on walks. And again, the walk is so important. Can't stress that, like, how that is really, really important.
Right.
And it just went away.
Well, the majority of behaviors under like medium plus intensity, you can just ignore if it's directed towards you like that. But humans are not good ignorers. They think they have to do something. Like a human has the most difficult time choosing nothing as a conscious strategy. That's a very difficult thing for the average human, is to choose less as your strategy, because they call us because they think they need to learn more. Yeah. So it's difficult.
Yeah. And in other news real quick, we got a cat, which
yeah. What's his name?
We don't know yet. It's had several names. I want to name it Dog. River's not. This is River's cat because I want to have another dog. So, but I'll have a cat named Dog. It doesn't have a dog. It doesn't have a name yet. We're still going through that, trying to figure it out. But it's funny because we adopted from a shelter. It's a no-kill shelter here. Great shelter here called Operation Kindness. And so they had, you can go into this cat room and they have the 3 cats in this room. And it was just kind of funny because they had this whole like behavior notes, and someone rates all these behavior notes, and it said like, oh, shy, slow to warm up, and didn't come out, and not doesn't care for people and all stuff. And I was like, sounds like a cat for us. This sounds like a. And they even said it's one of those cats that said, you can try it out for 7 days. If it doesn't work out, you can bring it back. Which they're already kind of setting it up in a way for there's a good chance you're going to fail. We brought it home and put it in River's room. The cat jumped out of the box and hid in the closet for the first 2 days. And I told my wife, let's just feed it and it'll come out. Don't pressure it. Don't try to get out.
Actually what the best thing to do is to put it in like a bathroom with a litter box.
Well, that's what we did. We put a litter box in River's room and just
kind of let it. That's going to be where ground zero is.
Yep. And so we're going to just make this world, and then we're going to start making it bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's already coming out now. Yes, I was like hanging out I was reading a book to River, and it came out and laid next to me, like cuddled right next to me, and I was like, this is kind of cool. I think more people need to get cats. I think what people expect to get out of dogs, they can get in a cat.
With less effort.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of cats. We've had cats together since Jen and I have been together. We've had cats, and we've had bunches of them. And what's amazing is when you get a kitten, it's like it has its own training manual ingrained in its head. It fucking trains itself. It knows everything. It knows how to use it. It's crazy how smart cats are. Yeah. Like their ability to get through life is so much easier, but they're a little trickier to get that neediness met. So a lot of people are needy, and I think get dogs and fill that emotional need. And I'm not saying cats can't do it, but it's harder. It's harder to get a cat to connect to if you're needy. So if you're needy, you're like repulsive to a cat.
We introduced her to one of the dogs yesterday too. Actually got this on video. And we bring the dog in, and the cat's like in her little, like we have a little cat bed box thing. And she was in there, and that's where she kind of sleeps. And I bring Nala, and Nala's like the most sensitive, doesn't care about anything, and she walks in, and the cat just like comes out like this and just faces her. And Nala's like, doesn't even know, knows the cat's there, but doesn't care, just kind of looking out. And then Nala lays down, and then the cat just looks at her like waiting for her to do something. And then just kind of like they have this little stare down, and then she just like walks off. I was like, that is exactly what I wanted to happen. You know what I mean? Because she was threatened. The cat was threatened at first.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? And then she realized no threat. And then she's like, oh, okay.
So our cat, that the last one we got, was raised, here with the dog. So he goes in and out of cat and dog world. So he'll hang with his cat friend, and then he comes over. He'll jump down off of like the chairs, like where the cats like to be in couches. And if all the dogs are laying down, he'll jump in the middle of them and lay down. So he's got his dog side. Him and Blue have a fun, playful relationship. Cats are more confident than dogs. Yeah. They're a flight animal in certain situations. So if they are afraid of dogs, that's what sucks. But if you have a confident cat, they have a different way than the dogs. They send a more intense, like focused, like I'm gonna fuck you up energy, and the dogs buy it. Yeah, they really do. Cool, man.
Awesome. This is a good talk. Hopefully we didn't confuse people anymore.
Yeah. Now, is your cat a front, middle, or back?
She's definitely a back.
All right.
100% a back. Yeah. Awesome. Right. Good talking to you.
Good chat. All right, guys. We will talk to you next week.